But while we have her on, we might as well talk to her about all the cool stuff that's been going on the last couple of weeks. Sydney, welcome.
Thank you.
Have we had you on the show before? I don't know if we have or not.
I don't know. Maybe not for a while.
Yeah. I feel like if we did, it might have been maybe at the beginning. But anyways, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, we only have Sydney for 20 minutes, so we're going to try to maximize the time with her. We got a lot that we want to cover today, and one of the big topics is reviewing the TFX Invitational. It was the only kind of big competition that was happening last weekend, at least in the United States. There were some other small ones around the world, as there almost always are, but most of the eyes were on this competition, as it was at least the only qualifier for the CrossFit Games. And Sydney, for you, it was the end of a pretty busy couple of weeks in a row. Just in case anyone hasn't been following, talk us through like the last month for you leading into TFX.
Yeah, so my schedule was, I was one of the few athletes. There was a few of us that had the online semi World Fitness Project and then the in-person semifinal back to back to back. So back in I don't even know when, maybe 2 months before this, we were kind of deciding, and we're like, are we going to do all three? Are we going to do two? We weren't too sure. And then we were like, you know what? We're just going to decide to do all three. And when do you really get to compete like that? And I mean, it was pretty cool. It was fun, but it was a lot. It was three hard weekends in a row. And after the first week, the online semi, I was too close where I was like, damn, that's kind of annoying. I was like, I wish I maybe would have not been that close, because then it would have been as oh shit. But then, yeah. And then the World Fitness Project, I think I was still going to go as a challenger. We decided, but then when I got backfilled in, I was like, okay, well that's a for sure. And then it just turned into three really fun, but hard weeks.
Well, I'm glad the way that you set that up, because it was just perfect, basically. But it also gives a really good insight into something that I've heard a couple people talk about kind of behind the scenes or in private conversations, but not so much publicly. But the premium of performance in these online qualifiers this year is so valuable. If through your experience with WFP, first of all, that you could have gone as a challenger and kept your name in the running for everything that offers, but you're capped out at the points you can earn. Mm-hmm. A decision from a different athlete to not participate because she was sick opens up this opportunity for you to, earn basically 20% more points than you could have possibly earned under a different scenario.
Yeah.
And it's funny because there's actually two other guys that could have fit the same criteria that you talked about in Nate Ackerman and Chris Ibarra of having those three competition weekends. And Nate basically got off to a bad semifinal online, so he just stopped. He's like, well, I don't think these are the workouts that I'm going to finish top 11 against this, so I'm going to refocus on these next 2 weeks. And then you got Chris, who got into the WFP Pro Division by 1 point over Tudor Magda, but he ended up finishing 16th. You ended up finishing 20th. And so you have had these kind of two scenarios with online. One of the day, you did enough to get in the pro field at WFP. And the other one, you're just missing out by 2 spots after the backfill on the online semifinal. But it's easy for me to say all of that. But for an athlete and the people that you work with on those online weekends, is there an awareness of how critical some of those performances are? And how do you even gauge whether you're doing well or not during those weekends?
During an online weekend? Oh, you have no clue. Literally no clue. I also am not one of the types of athletes where I don't love asking, because we can all ask each other. We all have each other's phone numbers. We talk all the time. There's a level in which you need to decide if that's what's actually going to help you perform. And for me, asking around and asking my friends what they got, especially the dumbbell overhead walking lunge workout, if that's what kept me out. And I know that's not my movement, and me asking, I redid it and did better, by a lot, but I still knew that time wasn't good. So I'm not going to go ask my friends who beat me by 2.5 minutes what they got because that's not going to make me feel very good. You know
Those
what
are the real locker room chats you have to
Oh.
earn your way into through competition.
So I'm like, I have a bunch of like close friends that like I'll chat to about certain stuff and be like, and we'll help each other out and be like, hey, do you think I need to redo this or do you need to do that? Like I'll share a score that I know that I put up like a really high level score on and I'll give that to a few people and vice versa. But other than that, like until that leaderboard comes live Sunday night, like you could be in first, you could be in 100th. Like you actually don't know.
Once the kind of initial publication of the online semifinal for the games comes out and you see where you're sitting, how much time do you spend thinking about that? Or do you just kind of try to dismiss it and say, it is what it is, I'll let it run its course, I have other stuff going on?
This year, I think I was upset about it for 30 seconds. And then I was like, you got to pull your stuff together because you have still a whole other opportunity to make it. And I didn't want to take myself out of TFX before it started. And I feel like it's really easy to do, especially having it be the third week. I remember like, because I redid a workout like right up to the last second. Like I literally submitted my score with 8 minutes left. It was very stressful, but that was not the intention, but it ended up happening. So I was like I think I got home from the gym and then the leaderboard was up. And I remember looking and like, 17th. And I went, that kind of sucks. And then I was like, okay, then it's done. Like, I think it was good, but I knew that I had to. Like, if I would have been upset about it, there's no way I would have been able to compete. Like, the emotions are everything.
On the mental side of things, because that's obviously a very, I think, healthy and mature way to handle a situation like that. And I don't think we need to talk too much about it, but the last 2 years have been tough, where like the expectations that you have set for yourself through competition and training and your lifestyle, you've can't come up short of probably what those were. But it seems like through that time period, you've taken the opportunity to like evolve mentally or mature into an athlete who can ride those waves, those ups and downs a little bit better.
Yeah, I think so. I feel like this year I had to really like reevaluate and kind of be like, okay, why am I not making it? Why am I feeling all these emotions? Why am I getting so upset about not like, because you do, and it's a natural thing, but I think riding the waves hurts you. Like, you go up and then you got to come down. Like, so why would you want to go up to come back down? Like, if you can just stay like even, you're not like doing these massive like jumps. So like it's not good or it's not bad. And personally, like for me, there was nothing about that online semifinals weekend that I wasn't proud of. Like to finish like we finished, I guess technically 14th. Like that's one of my best performances I've ever put together. So like it was kind of hard to be upset about it. And going into it, I remember like my team and I was like, okay, like let's just redo as much as we can. Let's just go crazy and see if we can get a spot. Because if we could get it done the first week, that would be pretty cool. But I was in the back of my head, I was like, you'll have another shot. Like, don't worry about it if you don't. So I think just kind of the like level-headedness like helped. And if I wasn't like level-headed, that would have been like a bad 3 weeks of competing.
It's funny you mentioned your being level-headed, because that could be the reason why, and we'll talk about here before you leave, is why you're actually going to the games, and we'll allude to that later.
Yeah.
But so after semifinals, Brian, you want to take it from that? Our online semifinals?
Yeah, I mean, online semifinals, you did that at home.
Yeah.
And then I'm guessing you were packing for 2 weeks of travel without going home.
Correct. Yeah.
From the, again, I think this is just kind of a cool thing for people to hear about, but when you're getting ready for, to go on a trip, and it's not just for one competition, but for 2 competitions, is that something that you feel like prepared for in terms of packing and nutrition and those types of things?
Yeah, I felt very like prepared. I mean, we all travel like lots, and I think if you like play sports when you're a kid, like you're used to, like when I played volleyball, we would go away for like weeks at a time. So I felt like I wasn't stressed about that aspect. There was a few other things I was stressed about, but not that.
Where were you when you got the notification that you'd actually been bumped from Challenger to Pro for WFP?
I remember being Monday morning. My agent Bijan called me, and I like woke up and I was like kind of being like, having a slow morning. I was like, oh, that would be great if someone wanted to drop out. and then Bijan called me. He's like, I just got off the phone with Will. And he was like, are you ready? And I was like, yes, I'm ready. Sign me up.
Perfect. And so that, I mean, that changes the dynamic of that week for you.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's very like, it's almost something probably subconscious. You're just like, oh, damn, like you're extra excited now. You have an opportunity that you didn't know you would have.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, we have, like, I was excited and still like very ready to go win the challenger division because I wanted to go get points. Like I wanted to keep myself in the running for this season. But to now have all these points opened up to me, I was like, okay, now this is crazy. I was like, this is awesome. Cause I was bummed. Obviously I didn't get into pro, but I'm like, I'm still going to go and like keep myself in this thing. So then to just have the opportunity to like work out, like with all of like the best girls and potentially, like do well in like a lot of the workouts, I was like, okay, this is awesome. So I was pretty excited. It like fired me up. I think it actually brought a lot of like really good momentum into that week and then the next, even though I was tired.
Yeah. And so, you mean, you basically, upon reflecting, at least now, you're saying that online semifinal was one of your best competition performances. It didn't yield the result that maybe you wanted, but if you're too results oriented, that can be a bad thing.
Yeah.
So you have basically a good feeling about your performance there. You get this good piece of news. You go to Indianapolis, you compete there. I think you compete quite well. Did you also assess that as a good competition weekend for yourself?
Yes, I would. I think I've had a lot of really poor competitions recently, like in my past like 2 years. And I really like have to say that I think WFP really, like, that was a really accurate representation, I think, of myself in that field. Like I haven't competed in that field since the 2022 games, and arguably like an even harder field because it's like a top 30, right? So I think I had very little expectations going in just because it really had been a while since I went. But no, that's a huge successful weekend for me. And I felt like I was able to compete well, recover well. Like that was a good comp.
It's cool for me to hear you say that. It actually reminds me of when I spoke with Jeff Adler before the 2021 games, or after the 2021 games. He took 13th. He'd taken 5th the year before, and he said at that time, I felt like that was a good representation of my fitness, this year. Mm-hmm. That 5th place last year was a different set of circumstances, and I think it's good to, I'm sure that you want to do better and you want to place higher, but also to be able to say, no, I think for where I'm at right now, that was a good reflection of my fitness compared to those set of women.
Yeah, 100%. And obviously, yeah, like I want to be competing for a podium spot. Like that's where I want to be. But I think like I recently made like this season, like I'm back home, I'm working with 2 new coaches. Like I made a lot of switches this year and we've only been at it for 5 months. So It hasn't even been half a year yet. So I think like to see that progress that quickly, that brings me a lot of like reassurance.
So you come off a great online performance, a great in-person performance, and you got to regroup. And I'm guessing you're feeling pretty good mentally and about your fitness, but like you said, you got to be getting tired at this point.
Yeah. I was feeling really good, like really fired up. I was a little sick. Like I got a little sick after online semis. So I was kind of working through that. Like I was too fired up to like really think about it. But then I like finished WFP and then I don't love traveling either. So like I got to, where was it? Oklahoma. And I was like Monday morning or Tuesday morning trying to just like go to the gym. And I think I was like, I can't do anything in here. I was like, holy crap. And I was like a little stressed for a second, like Tuesday and Wednesday. Cause I mean, I didn't test any of the events. Like we couldn't, like Olivia and I believe potentially Hannah as well. I don't know if they would have gotten released when she was still at home, but regardless, I knew the majority of us that were fighting for a game spot hadn't tested the workouts yet. So I was like, okay, that's fine. Better than like the opposite, like me being the only one that hasn't gotten to like run through them. But then we were like touching a few things and I think I did like 5 burpee box get overs and I was like, oh man. I was like, yeah, I don't love that. and then I like texted my coach and I was like, hey, just an FYI, that was terrible, like really bad. So the couple days leading up, I had to pull it together.
Yeah, but I mean, you probably what you needed during those days was just some rest.
Yeah. Yeah, I just slept for the majority of it. Went to the gym for an hour to like twice, and I just tried to recover. You can't get any more fit.
The way you're going to get back in competition shape at that point is resting, recovering, giving your body the nutrition and sleep that it needs. So you go to, you get ready for TFX. We're cramming this in here. We got like 4 more minutes.
Yeah, that's okay.
And I think it's fair to say that on paper, there's only maybe a handful of girls or less that probably are going to take those game spots. So it's a different style of competition than the last 2 weekends where you're competing against really deep, talented fields. Is that something that you're conscious of starting this weekend?
Yeah, I definitely am aware of who I'm competing against and what the situation is. Like, I 100% full-heartedly believe that I'm going to make the games. Like, I really, like, yes, I had doubts, but I also think that's normal and you just like push them aside. But like 100%, I knew that I could qualify for the games in this field. But I do think it was also really, really challenging because there wasn't a lot of like opportunities to get a spread on points off of someone. Because the field wasn't deep. It's not like you have a really good workout and then someone that you're trying to get points on kind of has like a mediocre workout. Well, the mediocre workout is like a stick. So you're like, okay, I gained only this amount of points on this person, So that was, it was good because it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I'm competing against 20 amazing girls that could make it. But it was actually kind of challenging as well.
Well, I definitely don't want to miss this opportunity. So the weekend goes along. It's mostly as people would have expected, the big names rising to the top. It's pretty tight, like you said. I mean, Olivia's having an incredible weekend. She kind of looks like it's basically coming down to you, Hannah, Rachel for the last spot on the last day.
Mm-hmm.
And then, going into the finale, you're still a couple points out of the cut line. You see that workout there. You know what Hannah's strengths are. You might be aware that she had actually a pretty good running workout in WFP for her standards. What's the mindset coming into that? I mean, everyone saw what happened, but nobody experienced it from your point of view. So like from the time you took the floor and then through those, it's a pretty quick workout. What was that like for you?
I think I like dissociated. Like I cannot remember doing a single power clean. I don't remember, like I physically had to like put myself elsewhere or else it would have been too stressful because I was very aware of the situation. Like I'm pretty sure like I was, what was I doing? Oh, no, I was trying to not watch her warm up. That's what I was doing because I was literally watching her like power clean 225, like it looked like 155 in the back. And I was like, just walk away. Like, just don't worry about it. Like, it's fine. Like, I can't do anything about it. Like, I can also power clean 215. I thought I was going to. And I think that, like, I mean, you shouldn't. Like, now looking back at that workout and just kind of watching how it played out, like, I'm glad I decided not to power clean it because it feels a lot heavier when you're in the moment. But yeah, I don't truly remember a lot. I had to go back and watch it because I was like, oh shit, like, like you're on the floor and it was very much like I knew I was aware of like the point situation. Like I knew what had to happen because at that point it's no good to be oblivious of the leaderboard.
Right.
Like the weekend's almost over. You have to be smart. You have to know what you have to do. It was very stressful, but I just kind of like, I don't know, put myself elsewhere and I just did my workout. And then when I finished, I like looked and I was like, holy shit. Okay. So yeah.
A little bit of an out of body experience, but also just, when that happens, the athlete kicks in, all the competition, all the reps, everything from your past. I want to ask you this because I've obviously you're a fierce competitor and everything like that, but I think you're also a pretty like empathetic human and person. And obviously when something is that tight and competitive and it goes someone's way, it doesn't go someone else's way. And I think, you have competed against Hannah before. You've been on the good side and the bad side of situations like that. Was there did you have an opportunity to talk to her at all after the competition, or to something like that?
Yeah, you know what? I haven't talked to her yet. So I feel like the empathy that I feel towards her and that situation, because I've missed out twice, like very recently, and I know what that feels like. And I've also never missed that close. Like the past 2 years, I have never been like just there. Like I think I've always known, like going into the last event, that I was like way more like points out than she was. So for me, being as excited and emotional as I was, also like when it's like the dust kind of like settles and we're all together and we're going through drug testing and stuff, like I feel and I know exactly what she's going through, because it's so tough. But I have yet to reach out, and I know I definitely will. But sometimes in that moment, I know what I like, and I'm like, okay, it's so easy being the person that comes out winning in that situation to be like, oh my gosh, you did great. But I feel like you need to let them come to you, like let them kind of like,
Yeah.
I don't love that in competition. So she was I got to talk to her parents though. That was the one thing, and they were super sweet. And
Well, I think that you guys have that in common then.
Yeah.
oh, that's awesome. Yeah, her parents
Um,
are awesome, and I'm excited to compete with her in the future. Like that was a very, very, like, what's the word? Exciting competition.
it was exciting to watch. I thought even the commentary, the broadcast, it was fun to watch. It was a compelling race from start to finish, and yeah, I mean, conversations like that, I think there's a right time for those things. But I know you, and I know that you'll have that awareness either way. Yeah, a couple really nice comments here, and a couple fans that you've created over the last couple weeks.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think the season's probably pretty straightforward for you from here. I'd imagine you'll do the qualifier for WFP and then do the games in Arizona and take it from there.
Yes. Yeah.
Well,
I think she froze on us.
yeah, time was up.
Yep. It's
I don't
like
know
the
if she's
worst.
gonna come.
At least it's a good time. At least it froze on a very good picture.
Oh, she's always so smiley.
Exactly. So we'll go ahead and let Sydney go,
Yeah.
and thank her for joining us. But yeah, I mean, you obviously, I mean, I, you know, I texted you. I'm like, man, this finish is crazy, and I kind of gave you like a play-by-play of it, and you finally got to watch it. Your initial thoughts from watching that?
Kind of twofold. I mean, you do the thing that I asked you about. Like, you do feel for the athletes, because situations like that are emotional, and there's gonna, when it's a fine line and you fall on either side of it. I think both women are having really good seasons so far. There's clearly progressing as athletes on the physical and mental side as well. And it was just the nature of that competition that there wasn't very much on the line other than those two spots. And if however many women showed up, only two can take them, and someone's gonna be the first person out. So I hope that, I mean, I haven't spoken with Hannah either, but I hope that she's not too down on herself by this. I think I would lean into what Sydney said of um, you know if you get too hung up on results oriented, then you really can beat yourself up. And you and I had talked about it. Like, you're like, I don't know the last time I saw someone collapse like that at the end of a workout. And I was like, well, it happened the week before. It was just in a different scenario. Laura Horvath would never miss a 115-pound snatch. She missed it 3 times. Some of the athletes, like I watched a couple athletes practice those overhead walking lunges with 50s or 70s, and it didn't look as hard as it looks on the competition floor. And this goes to actually WFP put a teaser out for a review show they're doing, and Seth talks about this on the teaser today. Live competition. That was the first thought I had. That's why live competition is so valuable.
Yeah.
That's what you sacrifice by having online competitions. And look, if you look at the online semifinal this year, obviously a majority of the names that are making it to the games have already made it to the games. You would expect them to make it in any format pretty much, or they've been really, really close before, like Jen Muir, for example, or Muir. But you just lose this thing. Like, if this competition had happened online and Hannah makes that execution error it's not just that one lift, right? It's like throughout the workout, she just pushed it a little bit too far. Or same thing with Laura in the first WFP event. Well, they could just do the workout again, and they know they can have a better performance in that. The value of sports is that you don't get a second chance. You have to show up and perform on game day. And that's why I think Andrew was finally, a light bulb clicked for Andrew that this season is not a great structure for qualifying for the CrossFit Games. But having the live competitions before an online competition is a much better scenario regardless of the caliber of athletes, it's just it's almost like it's just a more actualizing way to qualify for something, is to do it in person, where you line up on the starting line time after time. The scenario like Sydney was talking about. You have to figure out how to deal with that in real time, mentally, emotionally, and then physically. So those are kind of where my thoughts were at, was like the good and the bad for the athletes. But at the end of the day, this is case in point of why online competition comes up so far short of in person.
Yeah. I mean, the good news is, and that's why we're here, is it looks like Hannah has at least 2 more opportunities. Right now she's scheduled to be, to compete in Australia at Torian Pro, and she obviously will get a last chance qualifier invite. I'm not sure if NorCal is in her future, but we're looking at least 2 more, if she ends up going to Torian, opportunities. And if for her to go, if let's just say, obviously we're going to preview the Torian field, and you have her ranked pretty highly up there. But if she doesn't make it through Torian, she has to be one of the favorites going to the last chance qualifier. And she might.
I'll be honest with you. I don't understand the last chance qualifier. I think somebody put up something that they couldn't understand, if there were 10 or 100 athletes getting an invite to that.
I think.
Yeah, but which obviously changes the whole dynamic of the competition for the things that Sydney just talked about. When you're only, have a small number of athletes to compete against, the premium on a bad, like the cost of a bad performance is mitigated compared to when there's 100+ people in the field. So that's a whole nother thing, probably not for today.
Yeah, definitely not. So let's kind of do a quick recap here of the TFX Invitational. First year of the Invitational, TFX. We both know the founding of this, probably outside of the games, the oldest CrossFit competition, one of the oldest CrossFit competition.
2008. So this is like, they had 2 this year, but I think this is either the 17th or 18th competition that Jeremy's kind of head up. And a lot of his staff are very experienced. CJ's been with him a long time. Jess Powers is the competition director. She's awesome. She helped us last week in the run up to that. And she was a huge help when I was there. And one of the judges from the competition has just joined us. Hello, Jeff. Thank you for your service on the judging side of things. So look at the competition. I didn't go there, obviously. I don't know what the totality of the experiences was, but there were a lot of experienced people across the board, volunteering, judging, working on the back end, commentating, etc. So they didn't take lightly the opportunity they had here.
No, not at all. And this is the first time it was taken out of the state of Texas, and it went up north to their neighbor, good old Oklahoma, right up up in Oklahoma City. And
I-35 straight north. I've done that drive many times.
I have done it as well. And so a lot of, especially, we're not going to preview the team division, but the team division was very Oklahoma, Texas heavy, and Missouri as well. The border states right around Oklahoma. But look at the women. Obviously, Olivia Kerstetter. Again, just kind of same boat as Sydney. Kind of back-to-back competitions, and just impressive. I didn't think she would look this good. The workouts, weren't bad for her at all. Some may argue that last workout, even with the run, she looked fine on the run. I know it's only 550 meters. And she looked great. This is the best I've seen her. After seeing it WFP and then watching this is a very, very, it's weird because she's going to college full time and training and also training, and she looks better than ever.
Well, this is the 15-year-old question. I was gonna say age-old question, but
Yeah.
about competitive fitness athletes at the top end. So like we've talked about it before. Pat Vellner, one of the not the greatest weekend 2 weekends ago, but one of the best athletes we've ever seen, and he's maintained the job throughout his whole career. We see athletes like Nate Ackerman. He's making a breakthrough. He's in college. You talked about it last week. How many athletes had their graduations, meaning they're in school and they're still doing these qualifiers, getting their training and showing up to competitions and having really good performances. I think that it takes us, the athlete life where you're doing nothing other than competing, training, and then everything that allows you to do that, from the sleep to the body work to the nutrition to everything else, the mobility, etc. It's not for everyone, and it's not for everyone at every stage of their career. So Olivia is just another example of an athlete who has shown the capacity to train at a high level and compete at a high level, despite having other responsibilities and interests in her life. And we're going to talk about another athlete like that in Guimayeros, who's going to Torian next week. But this is like the reason I say it's a 15-year-old question is because Ben Bergeron used to talk about, if you want to be a world champion, you cannot have balance in your life. And then you see people like Guy, who's found joy again in competing through reintroducing balance to his life. So maybe the goals aren't always the same, but I do think that what I said a minute ago, at different points of different athletes' career, having other things that are important to them than just their competitions or their performances can actually be an enhancement to their ability to perform.
Yeah. And it showed. It definitely showed, especially in Olivia's case.
Dude, my favorite guy is here.
Who's that?
We see your questions. We've bookmarked a couple of them. We'll get to them later. Thank you for being here.
But yeah, I mean, these workouts, even with maybe a deeper field, I think she still would have did well in these. I mean, obviously heavy Isabel.
She finished 8th at WFP. I mean, they're very similar style competitions, 6-7 events, 3 days. And that's the other thing. It's not the CrossFit Games. It's not even the Rogue Invitational. You don't have to do 10 workouts in 3 days. So, being able to really hit a high intensity piece and then do it again 4 hours later, and then have the rest of the day to get ready to do it the next day. That's all that it requires at these competitions. And if you have a really busy schedule, you're probably doing that in your day-to-day life, which could potentially mean you're more prepared for these 6 workout competitions over 3 days.
Yeah. And I think earlier, and I hate to keep on bringing up Hiller. I mean, actually, I don't mind bringing up Hiller, but he mentioned something in one of his earlier videos about athletes not being able to, these CrossFit athletes aren't made to compete all the time. But I think what the season's showing us is some of them can, and some of them are willing to do that. And it's something that we've seen over in Europe and other parts of the world. We just don't see it as much, but it's like, there are athletes like Jeffrey Adler who'll do 1 or 2, but there are some athletes like, what we're seeing now is like, we're seeing a bunch of athletes like Hannah Black, for example, and the Rachel Noels.
And this year is forcing athletes to assess the year in a different way than they ever have before. So, you heard Sydney say, well, we're just going to decide to do all 3, but obviously at any point they could stop that, right? So she can see how her body's doing and say, I don't think this is a good choice to finish these semifinals or to go to Oklahoma City. And, that's what Haley Adams did. Her body shut down on her. She's super sick. She had to pull out of a competition that she had every intention of participating in. So the way that that's going to go, even at TFX, I think Roldan pulled out, Janie Chevry pulled out. So these athletes that were running up competitions, I think probably made some good choices to, say like, okay, I came here with the hopes of doing this. After one day, either my body's not feeling good, or that's probably not a realistic thing for me to attain at this point. Let me make a decision that's going to be in the better interest of sort of my long-term goals at this point.
Again, Sydney, great competition. I mean, what a finish. It's kind of unfortunate that she kind of disassociated herself from that, because I would have loved to hear what her thoughts were in different parts of that last workout, or even throughout that final day. But obviously her doing that led to her going to the game. So, I'm not going to question that at all. But I'm glad that she did realize you could tell when her reaction when she crossed that finish line that she knew she was going to the games. going back after 2 years of just coming up short, and it's really cool because you were one of the first, probably the first advocate of Sydney Michalyshen being a competitor at this level, and she's shown that. And we've also been able to meet her parents, who both of them are big fans of ours, and we're big fan of theirs. So it's just really cool seeing good things happen to good people, and Sydney's definitely one of those good people.
Yeah,
and then,
just quickly, looking at this leaderboard, I do want to give a shout out to Rachel Noel.
yes.
She works with Adrian Conway. And I mean, Olivia, Sydney, Hannah Black, people know these athletes. We've been seeing them compete. We've covered Rachel in a few competitions. She won the Summit Games last year, for example, but she's been trending up. She also did Reps Ahead last year, so you might have seen her there if you're like, where do I know that name from? But this was a great competition. I think I picked her around 10th. There were a few athletes that withdrew that were ahead of her, but I would say to finish 4th and ahead of some of these athletes here that are, probably more well-known in the Rebecca Fustelets, Allison Scuds. I think she was kind of at the top of this second group of women in this field. And I think that it's a testament to the work her and Adrian have been doing. And, out West, especially, this is a name that we could definitely see again, depending on how the seasons go and whatever. So be on the lookout for Rachel Noel at some maybe tier 2 or 3 competitions out West, and who knows what she'll be able to do next year.
I mean, there is a comparison. I mean, we've seen enough of Hannah Black and Rachel Noel.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're very comparable athletes. Hannah obviously is obviously slightly stronger, but they're both taller women, stronger women. They do really good in power output events. And for her to finish 3 points behind Hannah Black, and Rachel, she's taken a lot of positives out of this. At one point she was, sitting in that second spot and was in contention up until that final event, and but it's really impressive for her. Then Caitlin Bernadine, just she was impressive to me all weekend. I mean, if you look at that, she's got 3 second places.
Yeah, I think Caitlin's really she's starting to stack up meaningful competition experience, and her results are becoming a little bit more level across the board. The field wasn't as deep as the last year's semifinal or a Wadapalooza, for example, but doesn't matter. Her performances are I would say are also trending up, and this is another nice experience and finish for Caitlin.
Yeah, and then wrapping out that you mentioned her earlier, but wrapping up the top 10, Rebecca Fustelets at 6. Just coming up short.
Well, just look here: Fustelets, Scuds, Porter, and Zoe Warren. What are these all athletes? And even Ali Zerk. These are a little bit more on the gymnastics side, the smaller side, and I think that I would say in general, like Sydney, Olivia, Hannah have shown greater fitness, but the bias in the programming was a little bit towards the weightlifting on this, a little bit towards the heavy. And I think that the difference in some of these finishes, maybe 4 through 10, or at least 4 through 9, could just be attributed to that. Like I would say that over 20 events, these athletes are all going to be pretty similar and exchanging some blows. But it did seem like on the women's side, particularly, that being able to move the weight a little bit easier paid off over the course of all the workouts.
Yeah. And that kind of, maybe a little bit different on the men's side because, I think because you have 2 athletes of 2 maybe different skill sets or known for different skills going back to the games. So let's go ahead and talk about Nick. Nick, kind of a similar story, almost very similar to Sydney and also Olivia, because Olivia didn't make the games last year. A good bounce back. And this is another guy who's been competing a lot. Yeah, I was really impressed. And this is a guy who, again, following the same thing, just 3 competitions over 3 weeks. Same with Chris Ibarra.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't have much to say about Nick and Chris other than what we said in the preview, that they both look like they're in good form. If they were able to maintain health and fitness after the previous 2 weeks, so I thought they were definitely the favorites to win here. The other guy that I thought could possibly challenge them was Nate. But he's coming off the same thing of 3 weeks and travel and all this other stuff. And he has a little bit less experience. He's a little bit less strong than them on some of the movements that were tested at this competition. And so I would say Nick and Chris, a little bit more like Olivia, probably. Their fitness just prevailed. They were just better than the field here. They didn't have any deterioration, it seemed like, from from the previous weeks of competition, and they were able to take care of business. I mean, it was just like as expected. I would say nothing's easy, nothing's given, nothing's guaranteed, but these were the two fittest guys there in my eyes before the competition started, and clearly that's how it played out as well.
Yeah, I guess a guy that some people are grouping in there, in that group was Bill Leahy, and I know we're kind of skipping over some guys, but Bill Leahy finishing sixth, kind of dug himself a deep hole there at the beginning, a 26th, a 14th, kind of and then just kind of chipped away. But by then it was just when you have two athletes and only two spots, and you have two athletes that are kind of above and beyond everyone else, you can't have those type of workouts. And I think if anything, this is a learning experience for Bill, especially since this being his first, I guess, really actually second full semifinal, because he did do was a Syndicate Crown, Syndicate Crown back in 2022, and then this last year he suffered the injury, and but definitely the potential's there. Like a third, a ninth, a third, a fifth, and then unfortunately kind of struggling in that last one.
I mean, you got to give Bill an incredible amount of credit.
Yes.
It's not easy. This injury is not easy to deal with, and we saw it happen to him. We saw Henrik. We know what's going on with Gabby. What he's shown here is that within a year, you can get back onto the competition floor that you had this injury at, and you can perform well again. For me, Bill's placement on this leaderboard is not what's important. I haven't reached out to him to ask him this, but what's important for me is the Achilles healed? Because there doesn't matter how much you think that it's ready to go. There's just inevitably going to be some piece of doubt in the back of your mind the first time you go out there. And that first workout, he could win that workout in a different set of circumstances. Like, it's a good workout for him, but it had the movement that he's hurt himself doing, step overs, now with weight, and a lot of them. So, that I'm not surprised. And we talked about it. I didn't know what was going to happen with Bill. It's why I made a conservative pick. I put him fifth. I'm like, I don't know. We haven't seen a lot of athletes come back from this. We haven't seen anything from him in live competition. So I'm looking at this, and he put a post up before the competition started that was very personal and emotional and powerful. And he put one after the competition that was also those things. And he said, next one will be better. And I think, every competition's a learning opportunity. This is just a little bit different than he's had before. And then some athletes will never have this experience, not having such a terrible injury. So I think this is really positive for Bill. Like you said, getting the first day out of the way, not even letting that affect him, come back and have more of the performances we're used to seeing from him. And assuming that the body is feeling good, I definitely believe that the performance we see from him in NorCal will be even a step up from this.
Let's talk about the man in third. He was kind of in a podium spot, found himself in a podium spot, I believe at the end of day one, and then kind of stuck there most of the second day. Jacob Marlowe, his coach, I think he got tagged you on a post with this. But you talk about Jacob Marlowe. Obviously, we're both familiar with him, but finishing third. Thoughts on Jacob?
Well, the competition that Lynn is thinking of that you saw him make a podium at is the infamous MBS Turkey Challenge. And so Tristan, Coach T, he made a comment on the picks that I put out, and he did make sure to remind me of that after the competition ended. But as soon as he made the comment, I was like, you know what? He's right. Not only because a lot of the comments on there are from people that are friends of or close to fit relatives, like when they're being very critical of how I've ranked their closest friends or family, training partners, whatever, that just have this really too close to the sun kind of perspective to really maybe see the whole thing. And sometimes they're right. Don't get me wrong. But when I saw that comment from T, I was like, you know what? He's right about that. Like, Jacob wasn't very far off of Drake Lewis at MBS Turkey Challenge. Jacob has his holes. He's working on them. He's young, but he's strong. He's very aggressive, powerful, and motivated. So as soon as I saw that comment from him, I spent a couple of minutes thinking about it, and I was like, he's probably got me there. Like, I misassessed Jacob. I still wanted to put him third. I probably would have had him a spot or two below Drake, so 6-7, something like that. But it was exactly as T said. You get classic CrossFit workouts with a slight weightlifting bias, and Jacob Marlowe is really good.
Yeah. moving down to fourth. In fourth, and fourth is, we already talked about Nate Ackerman, third week in a row. Again, another athlete just getting tons of experience, especially a young athlete, especially an athlete we haven't seen much of since maybe semifinals last year. But he keeps plugging away. He has to take a lot of positives out of this, as well as a possible invite to the last chance qualifier, maybe another competition later on.
Yeah, Nate has had an up and down year in terms of his commitment level and motivation to do this thing, but he's back in the mix now, and I think that we're all better off for it. He's really talented. He's got a great coach with Dom there at Mayhem. They have a really good thing going. He's training at school, but he gets to take these trips up to Cookeville and get those kind of competition touches against the class of competitors that lives there. So I think Nate's in a great spot right now, and no matter how the rest of the games qualification season goes, I expect, because of how well he did at the WFP Tour Stop 1, that he'll do the qualifier, probably make it to Mesa again. Maybe we'll see him in the finals. Who knows? Like, this could end up being a great year for Nate, even if he doesn't make the games. And there's tons of opportunities in the fall if you want to compete as well.
You mentioned Drake Lewis there very briefly when you were talking about Jacob Marlowe, but Drake Lewis has been around, especially in the West Coast, the Utah, Phoenix, Arizona area. Fifth place finish against a really decent, again, a semifinal type of field. It is a semifinal, so yeah.
Yeah, another one of Adrian Conway's athletes with true athlete out there, and he's continuing to have impressive performances. He's been within a handful of spots of making the games previously, and this is what Lynn's saying. I'm just waiting for Adrian's athletes to take the next step. I think that they are too, but Adrian is very focused, and he won't let his athletes necessarily shift too far side to side for these types of things, because they're definitely having the same thoughts, like, when's it going to be my time? And the message from a guy like Adrian is going to be like, we're doing the right things, and we're moving in the right direction. We're getting meaningful competition experience, and we have data points that we can continue to go back to the lab and assess and work on, so that we can keep doing that. So yeah, when Adrian was there, Adrian always goes out there to support his athletes if he can, which he usually can if he has the chance to plan for it. He's completely bought into them. It's really cool to watch him work with his athletes in person, actually. I would say that he's not a coach for everyone, but if your personality resonates with his, he will get the best out of you.
Yeah. And the top 10 after Bill Leahy, Matt Brady, Trayvon Benton, Nikita Yundup, and Casey Strong.
I got stuff to say about these guys.
Yeah,
Well, Matt Brady put up a post that I think is really critical. He put it up on Instagram. Basically, last year after semifinals, he made this decision to really commit. If you read the language, it's pretty strong that I put everything into this year with the goal of making the CrossFit Games. That was very clear in there, and it's something that I wanted to lean into a little bit here, to especially because the games tickets are on sale right now, which is a whole nother thing. But forget about everything that Dave Castro has screwed up and that CrossFit Games has screwed up. The athletes are still incredible, and the athletes are still extremely motivated by qualifying for the CrossFit Games. And every one of them that makes it there is going to show up there with ready to compete like they do every year. If you've ever thought about going to the CrossFit Games, because listen, watching athletes compete in person is completely different than watching through your screen. You can't, it's difficult to explain it. Most of you have been to some kind of sporting event and you'll get that. This is going to be the cheapest opportunity you ever have to go watch a really good field compete in Albany. And for, whatever Dave is, he's still great at programming. The competition is going to be exciting. The competition is going to be entertaining, and the athletes are going to bring it. So if you're in the East Coast, I would say take the advantage here. This is the first time the games tickets have never sold out, but the athletes aren't going to be coming in any less motivated or prepared. And if you're in the West Coast, tickets for Mesa are available, and it's just as good, if not a better field competing out there. You want to support these athletes, go watch them compete live. You will have a great experience, and it makes it better for them too.
Well said. Well said. Well, that kind of wraps up on TFX overall. I thought that, again, Jeremy, you heard that they put on a world-class event. We know many of those people involved, including the media team, the judging team, the operations team. So, bravo to them. So, yeah, moving on to anything else you want to say before we move on to previewing one of 4 semifinals for next weekend?
Just congratulations to Jeremy, CJ, Jess, Kevin, Josh, all the team that put on the stuff down there at TFX. It was a lot of people on the volunteer side, especially underneath those, who were coming off of 2 or 3 weeks in a row of doing something, and it's really demanding, it's really tiring, and they still put on a great show in their specific domains for the athletes and fans on site and around the world.
Yeah. So to answer Lynn's question here, we will, but we're not doing it tonight.
So there's this weekend there's no big competitions. Next weekend there are 4.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do the Torian Pro preview today. I'm actually leaving to travel to Australia for Torian Pro tomorrow. And then next week, I don't know exactly what time because I have to figure out the time zone differences. We will preview the Far East Throwdown, the Rebel Renegade Games, and the Syndicate Crown.
Yeah. So we'll have a full show. And yeah. So moving on to the Torian Pro, you sent me your picks. I posted them up about an hour before the show. Already got some comments here, but if you go to our Instagram, you'll see Brian we only did 20. How many total athletes were competing? I think 60 in each division.
I had 40 on the leaderboards that I pulled from. On the men's side, I actually knew about 32 or 33 of the 40. On the women's side, I only knew about 26 or 7. But I just posted the top 20.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and go right into it. Right into the men. Now, remember, some of these athletes are already qualified for the games. Some are ineligible for the games. And, well, that pretty much represents your podium. That just the categories of the podium falls in under.
So there's a lot going on at Torian this weekend. And it's different that, the one. Yeah, the other thing about this semifinal qualifying event is that the competitions can basically make their own rules. Like Jay and Ricky could not compete at Syndicate Crown if that was their home competition, because they made a rule that said if you already qualified, you can't compete. But Torian Pro, even when it's been a semifinal, it's kind of still beats to its own drum. This is the competition in Australia, and it's one of the reasons that I'm going, because this is I've talked to Bella enough times. I've talked to Jeremy enough times, people who've been to tons of competitions. And Jeremy's a little biased, but still, this is something special about this competition. And for Maddie, the Australians that were in Indianapolis, like, they left immediately to get back, and they their eyes are on this. There's a little thing going on with the Torian Pro over the years, is that nobody, male or female, has ever won it 3 times. But I think 5 athletes, 4 men and Tia or something like that, have won it twice each. So there's a chance to have a 3-peat Torian Pro winner in their 10th year of competition next weekend. And that's meaningful for some of these guys. Jay and Ricky can both do it. I think actually, like, Royce Dunn and Brandon Swan might also be able to do it, but it's far less likely. And then, of course, Tia can do it. So there's that on the line. If you watched last year, the battle between Jay, Ricky, and Bailey Martin was just as close and compelling as between Jeff Roman and Dallin Pepper, which it was like 6 points on both leaderboards. Like, it was just like crazy back and forth. So the high and when you're looking at the top of this leaderboard between Jay, Rick, Guy, and Bailey, I mean, Bailey Martin's an interesting case study because he hasn't really done any competitions, where all these other guys have been competing like crazy. But I would say that he still has top 20 in the world fitness. Or at least he has the potential for that. So Bailey Martin's a tough one. I'm not sure. I saw some people saying no chance that Guy beats Bailey. Personally, I'm tired of undervaluing and underrating Guy. Like, he has outperformed my expectations or my rankings on every competition in the last year. So but he has not beaten Ricky or Jay. Even when Ricky was sick, he was 1 spot behind him. So I'm still giving the nod to Ricky and Jay. And then I'm saying, all right, Guy, you've earned my respect despite the travel, which he's already on the way there. He might already be there. Despite the other competitions you're doing, just from talking to him, knowing, I mean, he's basically said it on every interview since Wadapalooza 2 years ago. Like, I'm in a good place in my life and it allows me to compete. But what he said in a World Fitness Project was that like this competition format has remotivated me to train in a way that I haven't felt ready to do for a while. So I think I can't comprehend him as a human being and a physical specimen. So yeah, I think he can definitely podium here, but it's not to say that it's going to be easy because Bailey Martin is really good.
Yeah, I mean, you can't. I mean, Bailey's one of those guys that kind of came out of nowhere 2 years ago, but then what I believe was he top 10 his rookie year, or was he like 14th?
Bailey Martin.
I think he was top 15.
I think he was 12th. Yeah.
Yeah, he was top 15, and then last year, he kind of had that confidence that he can compete with Jay and the rookies, and
I love when T-Bird makes comments like this because the wink goes with it so perfectly on this kind of comment. The Australian Games Championships. Yeah, Bailey is coming clutch, especially they have legless rope climbs. It's going to be awesome. Yeah, so I don't know. I think that's, I mean, I would say we'll get to Zach in a minute, but I think it's not fair to pick Guy versus Bailey. Give a fan a break. Hey, they did that themselves. I do want to ask you though, because Jay Crouch and Ricky Garrard, they've exchanged blows in this competition before. Jay's gotten him the last two competitions they've done, online semifinals and WFP. I flipped a coin actually for this one. No, I didn't. I gave in to the Jay Crouch family and friends fan club, and I said, you know what? I'm staking my claim with Jay on this one. He has been so impressive the last 2 years, and I feel like whether he wins this or not, it's a totally valid pick that he can beat Ricky in live competition.
I mean, he's shown he has. I mean, he did at WFP. Now, granted, Ricky was less than 100%, and Jay even acknowledged that when I talked to them behind the scenes, is that Ricky was not feeling great. But and by the way, congratulations to Ricky closing on a house, him and Michelle. So congrats on them. So engagement, closing on a house. I wonder what's next.
Maybe a Torian Pro Championship 3-peat.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. But Jay's Jay's just locked in, and he just doesn't seem bothered by anything. And he just even at WFP, he just seemed like nothing spectacular. That's the thing, is like Ricky is like when he wins, everyone knows he wins. Jay, you just he's not trying. I mean, yes, he's trying to win, but he's also trying to get points. He's trying. He realizes that it's a long game, even if it's even 6 or 7 or 8 events. He realizes that he's playing the longer game. He's playing for the end result, not for immediate satisfaction. Not that saying Ricky is, but Ricky's just it's feast or famine for Ricky. Not that he's finishing last, but he's not finishing. He'll have a couple first and seconds and maybe a 12th here and there. But I just like Jason.
This is a great question. I mean, there's no question about it that Jay is good, great, top 10 in the world. Yeah, but we could definitely say that Ricky's been a quote unquote a little lackluster, for one reason or another, whether it's the ankle at the games, the illness at WFP, a little bit of an execution error on the workout towards the end of the weekend at Rogue. Like, he's just coming up a little bit short in live competition of what I think the potential is. But sometimes that's just the character trait of an athlete. And we've spoken about it with him before. I think that, you hear athletes say this sometimes, and maybe it's just like them talking, but a lot of times it's like, however good Ricky's going to do is up to Ricky. And when he shows up and he's at his best, he's the favorite to win this competition. And he's a favorite and a realistic favorite to podium at almost any competition. But Jay's shown that he seems to be just managing himself throughout these last 2 years of competition better. I don't know what better means, but with the fitness that he has and that kind of reality, it seems like it's almost if anything, it's a safer pick to pick Jay.
Yeah. Yeah. I think 100% it's a safer pick to pick Jay. But yeah. So that's something we'll debate, the Jay versus Ricky. But either way, those guys are going to the games. They earned their spot already. Guy, who you have in third, you talked about, is ineligible for the game. So there's a lot of people that are questioning. It's like, why is Guy competing? Why is Guy competing? He's an athlete. That's what athletes do. They compete. There's nothing against him not competing. And he did do the Open. He just didn't finish the Open. Now, granted, I think the rule said you have to finish the Open or record a score in 3 of the Open events. But either way, Guy is still a name in the fitness. And this year, I guess he's elected to take the season off from the CrossFit season off, but not doing the CrossFit season, not CrossFit events. So, yeah, so that kind of answers that question there. We talked about Bailey. Okay, now we get into this group here, and I want to get your opinion on this. I'm grouping Luke, Peter, and Con in that next, I guess, that third group. How about you? Are you going further down, or are you just leaving that to? Are you stopping it at Peter?
I mean, there's a few wild cards in this field. Royce Dunn's always a little bit difficult to project at this stage in his career. Ben Fowler, for the opposite reason, he's still relatively young, and I'm kind of waiting for him to take a next step up. And then there's Zach Thomas down there. I have him 13th because, I mean, obviously he had a horrific, frightening experience last year. And I just don't know, like, it seems like he's training. It seems like he's healthy. He could definitely do better than that. But I would say those are 3 names to just put a little asterisk next that, like, if they show up in surprise and end up threatening podium or top 5 or one of the game spots, like, it could happen. They have that capacity.
It's not a surprise if they surprise.
Right. But from what we know, I've spoken with Luke. We've both spoken with Con, and I know Peter. These guys, I'm not concerned about any intangibles or their fitness. They're all coming into this very fit and very motivated. Luke actually declined the challenger invite to WFP because this is his priority this year. And not only, I mean, if you know him at all, like, his actually goal this weekend is to win the competition, and he believes he can win this competition. And he's been in first place in this competition 4 years ago for a couple events in a row. So I'm not 100% sure if he can win this competition because I don't know exactly how fit he is, and the guys that he'd have to beat to do it are amongst the 10 best in the world. But Luke de Jong taking a games qualifying spot is a very real possibility. But again, Bailey's in that mix, Luke's in that mix, Peter's absolutely in that mix. And do you want to? I mean, you can talk about Con. Like, Con is not to be overlooked in this field.
No, not at all. I mean, Con, in his words, this is the fittest he's been in a long time, the healthiest. This is a guy who, for the last at least over 3 months, it's just been all about fitness. That's why, like, if you go to his stories, you won't see the typical Con stuff. He's just been training, and this is the healthiest. His back's not hurting. He's breathing okay. Mentally, he's just probably in the best place he's been in a while. Mentally, he's dedicated himself to the season. He is going to compete in the Masters, but and this is his. He's told us both that this is his. This is the swan song. No pun intended. No pun intended to our boy Brandon Swan, but yeah. But I don't know. I don't know if I believe that. But knowing Con, but
well, let's just say, knowing these athletes in general, how many athletes in the last 10 years have retired and then boom, here they are again? They just have the fitness and they love competing. But I'm excited to see Con. I mean, the fact that he is competing, he is motivated. He has said this is his last kind of run at this. Is another reason that I pulled the trigger on deciding to go to this competition. But without diving into too many other names on this leaderboard, I'll just say through Ben Fowler, I've seen all these guys compete in person. Mm-hmm. I don't think I've seen any of the rest of them other than Lago Giraldes and Ben Gerard compete, and Brandon Swan, compete. Yeah. So guys like Isaac Newman, Dante Caragaroa, Jack Monahan, Zach Thomas, Will Kearney, maybe I've seen him compete, Zane, Connor McElhaney, Riley Martin. I'm so excited to watch these athletes compete. These are the Rachel Noels and the Drake Lewises and the Nika Maizaradze's. Like these are the athletes in their part of the world that if we had the more easy access to go and watch them train, compete, that we would have more information on. And as I said, when I was talking about the tickets for big competitions this summer, like, watching people in person is totally different than watching them from afar. I can look up and see how well Isaac Newman's done in the last 2 years at Torian Pro, but I really couldn't tell you much about him. But after next weekend, I will be able to tell you, like, oh yeah, this guy moves a barbell extremely well. That guy's got capacity for days or whatever. So I'm really looking forward to learning more about a lot of this kind of like the middle group of the 40 field here, that I think have some potential to potentially break through on the international scene over the next couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, it was bound to happen because, you know, I came into the sport when you had the Rob Fortes, the Com Porters, the James Newberries, and then you start seeing, you know, even Benny Gerard and Brandon Swan, and, you know, these guys coming through, and then now seeing, you know, kind of that new batch with Jay, Ricky, Bailey, and Peter, and then Luke DeYoung, and then so who are the next guys after that? And I think to answer that question are some of those guys that you just listed here from, you know, 10 to 20. Even though some of the veterans are there. But I just think it's so cool because a lot of these guys, a lot of these younger kids, they grew up, I call them kids, younger athletes, they grew up. And this is something we talked to Georgia Pryor about last year on our way to the games, about her competing along Tia. And, you know, so here's a lot of these people, these athletes competing with the Com Porters and, you know, the Brandon Swans, the Royce Dunns that they looked up that kind of were trailblazers in Australia that have made Torian Pro what it is, where it's a must-see event. And now these new athletes that we don't know get to compete under those lights, under those the fireworks, the torches, the spectacle that is Torian Pro, the Pat Rat.
Oh, that reminds me, dude. I got to pack a pink shirt.
Yeah, for Saturday. So it should be no problem finding pink shirts there. But yeah,
I have a very bright pink shirt with a white rhinoceros on it that I got signed by Dave Matthews. I've never worn it. I've actually done nothing with it since I got it. Maybe I'll bring it. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely that. But you know what? On Sunday, you probably should be wearing your Con Porter shirt on Sunday. So
well, he said he's got one for me, so.
Yeah.
If he brings it, I will wear it.
Yeah. So the men, again, just a very interesting, eclectic mix of men. You know, some of the best in the world, and then some of the bright up and comers. I'm excited for you to witness this. Kind of mad at myself for it, but so
well, we'll get to that later on. But yes, I am T-Bird. I am going this year. My first time going to Australia, and I have pretty much, I'm not working at the competition. I'm not doing the broadcast or anything like that. So I have sort of free reign media credential to do what I want. So if there's specific things that you guys would like to know about, like in the next week or during the competition, you know, send me a DM. I'm always checking those stuff, and I'll try to get what I can for you guys.
So let's move on to the women.
Another, you know, star-studded lineup at the top here, specifically. I mean, we'll just start at the top. Like, this was the last nail in the coffin for me, was when Tia said that this might be her last competition. I don't know. She it was a little cryptic. I assume if she qualifies for the games, that she'll go to the games and compete there. But that kind of didn't matter. Like, I was already thinking about going to this. It's the 10th year. It's such a cool comp. It's such a cool place on earth that's hard to get to. I could go this year. Like, I'm not, you know, the last several years I've been hired to work at so many of the semifinals that overlap with this that I would have had to sacrifice an opportunity or a job to go to this one, because I haven't had an opportunity to work at it. All these talented men and women that I haven't had a chance to see. And then Tia said this, and I was like, it's like one of those things, like enough dominoes had fallen where I was like, okay, just pull the trigger, book the tickets. And I still think, despite everything that she's doing and not doing, that she's a favorite to win.
I mean, how do you bet against her? I mean, even in the current state, her fitness. I mean, you know, she's shown this before, where you know, at Rogue, you know, fresh off of having a baby, you know, pushing Laura Horvath to almost beating her at Rogue, and she's done it before where she's won Rogue less than 100% because she was training for another sport. Her training for another sport is not missed. I mean, she's done it before when she was bobsledding. You know, she was a
Olympic weightlifting
too. So this is nothing new for her. Tia is Tia. Her level of fitness, and a lot of people might, well, look at her open score. Well, she wasn't trying. She knew she only had to do enough to make it. She elected not to do online semifinals. She's going to do this. She's going to win. Then she's going to turn around in 2 weeks, go to Chicago, do a Hyrox, probably set a world record and win the mixed team or whatever divisions. I think she's only doing one, maybe two divisions. I think she's doing something with the mix with James and then the female pro. And then she'll have her games and then she'll have basically a month and a half to train for CrossFit for the games, which we already saw what the first workout is for the CrossFit Games. You can't tell me Tia doesn't win that first event.
No, and if she competes at the games, we'll talk about it then. But she is competing here. It is where she started. It's definitely an important competition to her. I think that regardless of everything that Tia has achieved, something that I've always really admired about her is that she's stayed in touch with the community in Australia, and she's kind of given back and poured back in and recognized in the last couple of years how important her presence there is. And she's, it's a long trip, but she makes that trip a couple times a year. And the fact that she's competing here, regardless of what her intentions are or what her current fitness level is, I think it says a lot about, there's always this thing like, some people might not believe this, Patrick. Savan got me this. It's a mouse pad. It's really nice. So I keep it. Because you never want to forget where you came from and the people that gave you the opportunities early on and the first chances you had to put your name on the map for something. And I think Tia competing here is a testament to how much she respects the Torian Pro, the competition organizers, the quality of athletes. And I'm struggling for words to describe the fans that show up there. I think I'll have a better appreciation for that after I experience it. But that's what it, and that was kind of my mentality in seeing her announcement about this and saying like, I got to be there for that if I can.
Yeah. Maddie Sturt.
I mean, I think Maddie Sturt has a real chance to win this competition. Like she's been training with Tia on and off for the last couple of years. She's been in a little bit of the shadow of her, but she's continuing to rise up the ranks. And if for whatever reason, Tia, let's just say she's not ready or not, in great form for one of the maybe heavier events because she hasn't been doing much of that. There's enough good women in this field that like if Maddie can just kind of finish one behind her, two behind her, and then take an event win where she takes a sixth, suddenly you might have a dead heat go into the final. And Maddie, if of any of these athletes on the page, like if she has one workout and a chance to beat Tia, like she might have been in that situation in the gym a few times before. I'm sure she's beaten Tia on a couple workouts in the gym, and she'll feel like she can do that maybe in competition as well. So I think there's a scenario where Maddie does win this. But either way, I think that they're the 1-2 here, at least on paper.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think many people can argue with that, especially since she's kind of the proven heir apparent to Tia in terms of obviously she has been training with Proven for I guess going on almost 2 years now, 2 full years, and she's looking better every time we see her. Kind of very similar to Jay, and third.
I'll draw another parallel to the men's field. To me, Grace Walton is the Bailey Martin of the women's field, meaning she could beat Maddie. Maybe she could beat Tia. We don't really know. Grace says, she did well in the online semifinal.
Before already. Yeah.
And she's really good. And her and Bailey Martin, I don't know how good they are. I'm not sure how fit they are right now. I'm not sure what their peaking for this competition is. And I don't have a super good understanding of how good they are against the world of competitive athletes because they don't do a lot of competitions outside of Australia. So I do think that those are if any other women besides these three end up on the podium, I will be surprised. I think these are the three best athletes hands down that are competing in this field. And if they're healthy and fit, they should end up in the podium in some order.
I don't disagree with that at all. I mean, we haven't really heard much from Gracie this offseason or this season at all. She elected not to do WFP season. And has been competing in the games season, and yeah, I mean, I don't see. I mean, this scenario I see playing out. I think most people would see that going out, playing out. But there are some athletes after her that you have in your picks that can definitely throw a wrench into that, and some that have done that before. But let's go ahead and talk about Hannah Black.
I mean, so first of all, just in case you're not up to speed, there are 2 game spots on the line. Obviously, that's important for a majority of these athletes. If Tia is Tia, she's going to take one of them. Now, someone said in the comments, maybe she'll pass it on to someone else, which, whatever. But after Tia, Maddie, and Grace, assuming they finish in podium spots, that means everyone else in the field is competing for one spot. And so suddenly we're in the same situation we're talking about with TFX and a Mayhem Classic, where it's like, man, the premium of execution is so high for the rest of these women. This pick of Hannah Black, so I'm pretty much just like, by putting her 4th on this list, I actually think it's going to be difficult for her to finish 4th in this field if she travels there and competes, just because of the volume of competition and travel that she's done. And she's going to be coming into an environment where athletes like Daisy and Georgia and Julia and Ella and Emily and Jenna Brioni, etc., are very comfortable. They don't have to deal with a crazy time zone change, and they haven't been competing week after week. I just have been so impressed with Hannah that I wanted to give her the credit for how far I think her fitness has come here with this pick. If she is able to compete completely fresh, I think she can finish 4th in this field. I don't know if it's realistic to expect that from her, even if she makes the trip, just because of how much competing and traveling she's been doing. So this is a nod to how impressed I am with you, Hannah Black, and what your potential is if you do make the trip and you can compete it, close to your best.
I think that's fair enough. I think most people, what we've seen over the last 3 weeks from Hannah Black, it would probably agree with you. Daisy McDonald burst on the scene as a rookie last year to the games as a games rookie. You have in 5th.
I'm just gonna say this because as we go 5th through about 15th on here.
Yes.
I'm really not sure.
Yeah.
I'm serious. Like,
yeah, no.
I had all these athletes on a list, and I was looking at their past competition results at this competition. Some of them who, like the ones that are traveling in, like Anais and Verena. Some of them have done team, and then they've gone individual and kind of bounced back and forth. Some of them had a really good year 2 years ago, but not last year. Like, there's a lot of talent there, but I think this is I don't feel confident in the necessarily of the ranking of those 10 women.
Okay. I mean, you mentioned those 10 women. Is there one? So how did you end up grouping that then? I mean, did you do alphabetical? Obviously not, but I mean.
No, I mean, obviously I made some decisions. And so I think I kind of, for the ones that are 6 through 10, I have a little bit of a mix. I've got the 2 kind of international that are traveling in that I've had a few conversations with Anais this year, and more recently with Verena. They're both really excited about this. I think Verena's on the plane right now going there. Like, they're going early enough that they should have some time to acclimate. And I think when you're an athlete who takes a chance to do such a big trip like this, if it lines up well, then it's going to go really well. And I think, Verena's already qualified for the games with one of the Oslo teams, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she qualified with the second Oslo team. I don't think it's called the Oslo team. It's named after one of the gyms that.
Oh, it's CrossFit Furuset, actually, which is Roger's gym. Yeah.
Yep.
So this is like a little bonus for her. And she's taking a 2-week trip to Australia to do this competition and then see a different part of the world. And I think that, so in the case of those, never heard of Anais. It's Adrian Moonweiler's girlfriend. We've covered like several competitions that she's done this weekend.
Yeah, she's from France. She's French. She's a twin. But by the way, when I was at Mallorca, it was her birthday, and we all went out for her birthday. So it was pretty cool. Like, that actually got to hang out with Adrian Singleton and the whole Mallorca crew. And I sat next to her, and she's a twin, and she was actually in the French military.
Dang.
Yeah, didn't know that about her. It was like just a really cool person. You'd know her if you saw her. She's very she's models a lot for a lot of CrossFit brands, but just a really cool person, just really neat. But good for her. I think this will be a really cool competition. She's been kind of hitting hard. She's still trying to get back into shape after an injury that's kind of taken away the last couple of years. So she's slowly getting back into it with competitions.
It was definitely bothering her at Basque Chapelqueta, but by Wadland, she seemed like a totally different athlete, and I think she's probably building off that confidence. So I bumped her into the top 10 here. I think Verena is a tough one to pick. She's flirts back and forth between team and individual, but she has made semifinals in Europe before. She's pretty good. So I think that she's got a legitimate top 10 chance. As far as the Australians go, I kind of went with Daisy, Georgia, and Julia here. But I don't have a great amount of data points on them and reasons that I picked them to go there. It was sort of just a gut thing. I see someone saying that Julia should be higher than this. I think CJ saying, let's move Hannaford up. Yeah, she could definitely finish higher than this. I don't know. She was closer to the qualifying for the games 2 years ago than last year. But I mean, she competes basically twice a year in Australia, and it's really difficult to know where all these women are. Which is same thing as the men. It's one of the main reasons I'm going. I'm excited to come back from this competition, or maybe even do some live updates while I'm there and tell you what I'm learning about these athletes as competitors.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to that, however that may take form with your updates. But yeah, because I'm interested about a lot of them. Obviously, I know a few of especially the games qualifiers. I mean, it's funny, me and Georgia's history goes back to 2019, our first competition in China. But then, Gemma Hawk, I mean, you have Marnie Sykes, Poppy Hay, Hannah Hardy is making the trip over there. I mean,
I think she has before also. Yeah. I mean, who knows? Emily DeRoy 2 years ago, phenomenal. Last year, phenomenal at this competition as an individual. Last year, great success with the team. Hasn't looked the same as an individual as we saw 2 years ago. Maybe she'll get that back. Not putting it past her, but Gemma Hawk was in Dubai. Just got to see some good performances from her there. Yeah, but most of the women on here that are Australian have had finishes in the top 20 at Torian Pro once or twice before, at least. Some of them top 10s. And then you have a couple of Americans making the trip. Hannah Hardy, Logan Thomas, Lisa Hemrick's Australian. That's Matt Gilpin's girlfriend. They're living in Training Think Tank and working at Training Think Tank. They're on the way over right now. Matt, actually, he got a little bit unfortunate, but he's making the most of it. He could have been in this field. He had to make a decision, and it kind of ended up being the worst case scenario all around for him. So he's going there to support Lisa. Obviously, they'll visit some family back home while they're there. But yeah, a lot of talent in the women's field, actually. So it's got some depth to it, and I do think, unlike what we talked about with TFX, that you can see the potential for an executioner from one of the top women on this, including the costing them 5 to 10 spots in a workout.
Yep, definitely see that. I don't know. I don't think they have, or they're not doing team division here. They might do it. I don't think they're doing an RX team, but I haven't looked at the divisions yet. But I can't believe, I wouldn't believe they are. But if that's the case, then that just means it's going to be pretty exciting to see all those athletes, because sometimes in past years with the team divisions, kind of not, because it's so, I'm not going to say dilute the field, because the field's always so stacked, but because there are no teams, and it means a lot of these athletes are competing as individuals, whereas in past years they would have been on a team.
Yeah, there are a few in that regard. So Marnie Sykes probably being one of those. She has done individual before, but frequently does team as well. So I'm not sure. I just, and I saw someone ask about Haley Adams from Australia. She is competing. I had her just outside the top 20, along with some the other women that I know that are competing. There's Emily Clements, Erica Pilasti. There's a woman named Heidi Hughes, but it might be Heidi Summers. She listed, there's 2 different women on different leaderboards. Jordan Malm, Jamie Goodwin, Mackenzie Woodhouse are some of the others that I've at least seen on leaderboards before. For the men's side, I mentioned this to you before the show, but I wanted to bring it up again. There's tons of actually athletes in the 21 through 35 range that I know of, but there's one guy who's competing in this field named Rogan Dean. I don't know if you can pull up his Instagram or not, but Rogan Dean is listed in the men's field for the elite division. He's an adaptive athlete. I met him at HWPO 2 summers ago when I was up there for a couple of days training with Hopper and Katrin and Jake Douglas, and he showed up. And this guy, oh my God, he was so impressive. The lower division athlete there. You see, he won the CrossFit Games in his division, and he's listed on here in the elite field. And it does actually happen every once in a while that an adaptive athlete competes like this. Javi Osa, who's one of the competition directors for Basque Chapelqueta, has competed at. He's a upper extremity athlete, but he's competed in elite level competitions in Spain and in Europe. And Rogan's listed on this roster. So pretty cool. You don't see this very often. I did get to see another lower extremity division athlete on teams of 2 at Oslo Throwdown last year that also podiumed, or his team may have even won that division. But yeah, so that was kind of cool, and it would be interesting to see how he does against this field. Personal invite for Rogan. Nice. Good intel there. Ella Price is just one of the young, she's just one of the young up and comers in Australia. She's had, I can't remember exactly what her competition finishes were there, but she's had some decent ones in the last couple of years. It wasn't like, I think the place I picked her is about what she finished last year, 8, 9, 10, something like that. So she's, again, outside of these competitions in Australia, I've never seen her anywhere. I've never seen her compete live, but she'll be one of the ones that I try to learn about while I'm there.
You never did reply to my message regarding the other thing we were going to put out tonight. Should I just go ahead and post it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, then I'm going to stall here for a second.
Well, I think I want to post it because
Sure.
people have been asking about it. So this is going to be our summer tour. So instead of just doing the whole thing for the year, because there's a lot of variables for the fall still, put together over the last couple of days while I've been home, the list of competitions that we're going to be at this summer. And starting next weekend, PC and I are going to do the old divide and conquer. Obviously, there's 4 competitions going on around the world in 4 different continents. So we'll be at 2 of them. As you guys know now, I'm going to Torian. PC's going to do the back-to-back years at the Far East Throwdown. Obviously, he's got Sahar competing there, but tons of friends that he's made over the years in Asia, the Middle East, etc., that are traveling there. A few notable Europeans. Who?
Facundo and Nick Fowler.
I thought that might be the case. So I put out this poll yesterday. This is funny. I put out this poll on Instagram of those 4 competitions for people to vote. Yeah. And just to see.
People voted for Far East, and was I the other person? Me and Facundo were the only 2.
He actually didn't vote for Far East. He voted for Rebel Renegade Games. I wonder if because he programmed that competition. I don't know. But there were so few people. There was like less than 50 votes for Rebel and Far East, while there were 500 or more votes for Torian and Syndicate. So not surprising, but do it and recognize that they're going on. Anyway, Patrick will go to Korea again, and I'm a little bit jealous of that. I need to get out there still at some point.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of opportunities though. It's not like they have like big competitions that happen that often throughout the year. But it'd be great to have another touch point there. So we can bring you guys some live stuff from both Torian and South Korea next weekend. And then I'll come home for a couple weeks. Norwegian Throwdown. I'm going to support Roger. I live streamed it last year. I probably won't this year, but I'll be there in case anyone's going to be there. Turku Tuomiopäivä in Finland, one of my absolute favorites. 3rd year running. I'll be doing the live broadcast commentary there with Minna for the 3rd year in a row. New competition for me this year down in Naples, Italy, UBL Italian Championship. Do the live stream there, and then we'll come back to the US. 2 competitions. There's actually a run of 3 competitions. I wanted to work at all 3 of them this summer: Metcon Rush, Magic City, and then Monster Games. Magic City will have a broadcast. We just won't be involved in it. So if you're looking for competitions in the US to attend or follow or be a part of this summer, there's plenty of opportunities. Metcon Rush is one that I've wanted to go to for 3 years now. I've been talking to Tim, super impressed with what they organized. So I'm really looking forward to getting firsthand experience there. And then Monster Games, Jason Ansley, who's the competition director for WFP, is still putting on his signature event in Kansas. So we'll have that one, which at least for our kind of live streaming coverage will take us through July. The games is not listed on here. That's what Patrick was referencing, but we probably will have some kind of a presence at the games, and then obviously WFP to round out the summer.
So if you read the
Oh my gosh, I don't know what just happened there. Let me see if I can take an audible. Yeah, I'm kind of curious what Patrick was going to say. I haven't actually read the post yet because he had written it and kept it hidden until that moment that he populated it. But we'll see if he comes back on. The space has been so ugly that I'm looking. What podcasts are you guys talking about? Did they talk about In the Box Office? It's going to be streamed on their own YouTube channel. I can talk about that. Yeah. I'm actually really excited for this. When I was doing podcasts with Sevon and Patrick and I also through the years, we've always been trying to find some female analysts or commentators or whatever that would be motivated and interesting in potentially doing their own show. We'd actually talked with Bella Martin about doing that at some point, but then she got the job at Mayhem, which is amazing for her. So the last couple months, you guys will have seen Mesa and Kate working with us in some different capacities. And after the experience we had with them and that they had at WFP, they formed this friendship and they had this idea. And so, yeah, we're going to create a space for them to do this podcast on this channel, which is, accessible place. People know where to come to find it. But it should be hopefully a very different flavor. I don't think Patrick and I will be on the show hardly ever, unless they invite us on. And yeah, I think they're motivated to, provide an open forum for women to talk about not just top level athletes, but they both are. Kate works full time in a gym. Mesa's opening her own gym in Charleston, South Carolina, later this month. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it will be fresh and new, like you were saying. I mean, T-Bird, looking forward to. Okay, whatever. I can't click on these comments for some reason. Did you disable my abilities, Patrick?
No,
There
not
we
at
go.
all. I haven't touched anything. You got it?
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, this is exciting. We actually had a meeting with them earlier. What's going on with Patrick? We had a meeting with them earlier. I don't know what's happening. I apologize for that. Yeah, so that I think that they'll be starting up in the beginning of June.
I keep on getting kicked off. Sorry, but yeah, excited about that. I know the girls are excited about it. It was kind of funny, just kind of how that friendship devolved. I'm pretty sure, not to ruin it, but we'll let them talk about their friendship, hopefully on their first show. That's what's happening. Yeah, it feels like it. I'm doing like 20 things at one time. Imagine that. I did want to bring this up, kind of some analytics here on the tour. I think I was talking about it before I cut off, but let me bring it up here.
Yeah, you had me in suspense.
Yeah, share screen. What do you mean? It's on the post.
I haven't read it yet because it wasn't posted until like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, exactly. But kind of give you a breakdown. 8 stops across 7 weeks, 6 countries, 2 CrossFit Games semifinals, 5 international competitions, 3 U.S. stops, 1 World Fitness Project live competition, 3 competitions broadcasted live on the B.Friendly YouTube. So, yeah.
Not too bad.
Not too bad, especially, And again, please comment what competition you're excited for us to cover. Is there a competition we missed? Because obviously there's some competitions out there. Who knows? There might be some free dates there. And again, like we said, we didn't put the games in there yet. But like Brian said, alluded to, we'll do some type of coverage from it of some sort. Brian has elected that he's made the decision not to cover the games this year, and I respect his decision on that and support it. But again, it's not about the CrossFit Games for us. It's about the athletes, the community, the people that support it, and if the athletes are going to be competing in it, then we want to tell those stories as well. CJ, Other than Annie Catherine, I can't think of time when there's been more than one win-up podcast in this space. There was one back in the day. I'm trying to remember who they were. I'm trying to remember the name of it, but there was 2 women that did a podcast, and it was actually fairly well. And then it kind of dropped off before COVID. I just think.
I mean, Scott's got women on it. A
Yeah,
couple
he
women
does.
on it.
He has. You know, Kat has her own show. Lauren has had shows with her and Presley on. So, but this is, I don't know. Like I said, it's both of these women are very knowledgeable of the sport. They're very knowledgeable of the community. They have unique perspectives. They're kind of unknowns, that's the thing I'm excited. Besides us introducing them to you, they have stories that no one else has told, and that we want them to tell themselves. Especially how their friendship came about. So I'm going to take a lot of credit for that. There was another piece of other. Let's go ahead and talk about this before we call it a night. I think Spin is actually live or went live during our show. I imagine it's to address this.
We don't want to leave without Sugan feeling like he got his due. We did promise that we bookmark this and talk about it. So go ahead, Patrick.
Yeah. So like I said, Spin did make a post about this. And actually, there should be a press release going out soon regarding this. But yeah, I mean, I know Sevon, his live call-in show today, Alex did call in, and she was upset. But she did say that in her interview with Sevon that this is something Will told her that they implemented before the competition. And if you read the article, Spin does say that it does state in the rule book that CBD and THC is a banned substance, but Alex said that rule was changed, prior to the live competition. They just didn't update the rule book, but again, so there's no harm, no foul as far as the WFP is concerned. No harm, no foul on Alex Kazan.
I think the question from I mean, I don't know how many comments are on there now. When I saw it originally, there was around 50, and there were already people. I think they were asking if there's harm and foul from barbell spin in some of the things that he's posted this week with regards to some of the athletes and the motive behind that, and how helpful it is to post things like this. So, and I don't know. I mean, journalism is what it is, right? These are the types of things that at this point you come to expect from him. And you could look at it one of two ways. You could say it's self-serving for Spin and that it's rude to the athletes and there's better ways to go about it. Or you could look at it as he's holding, athletes, he's holding athletes under a microscope and holding them to a high standard, and he's paying attention to everything they do and say, and he's making some speculations here and there, but that's part of what, reporting is. So I'm not going to say whether it's right or wrong. It's probably not how I would handle it, but it's out there.
It definitely is. I do know that for someone like Alex, she was obviously probably took her by surprise, and as it probably, it would take anybody by surprise, I would imagine.
You have to think a little bit bigger picture with something like this, and even with the with Emily Rolfe that I mentioned last week, like this post that he puts out speculating about some kind of injury. What does a post like this? What kind of rippling effects does it have for the athletes? Like, athletes are constantly right now. There's nothing guaranteed, right? So they have to earn everything, including conversations with sponsors, etc. And you never know how those things are going, and how a post like this that creates a little bit of doubt in a sponsor. Like, what if Alex is having conversations with some of her biggest partners right now and they see this and they're like, I don't know. And now what have you done, Spin? Like, what have you, like, I'm just speculating at a potential reality that could be out there. But, it's one thing to say, man, that looked rough on Emily's elbow. But it's another thing to say, did she hurt herself and make this big deal about it in a public forum? Rambler, come on, man. We've presented both sides of the conversation here, and we're presenting a very realistic perspective that exists for these athletes. And we know who you are, by the way, that and your point of view on these things, and it's fine. But there's been times that I've said things that those guys have called me out as potentially putting them in jeopardy of something, and I apologize to them for that. And so, these are situations where you just got to think a little bit more about what's it worth to you and what's the potential cost of it. So hopefully none of that is the case for either Emily or Alex. And but I think that it's a good lesson for everyone out there that like that type of media exists and you got to be careful.
Yeah, I mean, as a
well, but let's I want to say one other thing about that, because the disappointing thing about that is it makes athletes less willing to go out there and share their experiences. And we've seen a deterioration in the number of athletes who are willing to go and talk to Sevan on his show. But just in the space in general, there's people that we've talked to, and they're like, why would I go on any podcast right now? No matter what my motive is, what things that I'm saying, whatever my purpose is, the things that like these guys, yes, that type of media, Rambler, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They're going to pick something out there to make this big thing out of a small thing. And it's disencouraging people from speaking on public forums. And you guys want to hear from the athletes, and you want to hear from the coaches, and you want to hear from the managers. And some of us don't care. We're like, okay, do whatever you want to me, because I know who I am at the end of the day. But for other people, there's a lot more on the line. And then you're not necessarily encouraging them to want to come out there and have these conversations. And I can almost guarantee that this minute of talking that I just did, that they're going to spin it to make it all of Brian, this, that, whatever. Like, this is what they do. And it's the reason why you're not hearing from as many athletes. Maybe they'll take their into their own control, like the Boys Interrupted have done. Great. But yeah, so I don't know. That's just the landscape that exists, and you have to be conscientious of it, and then we all have to deal with it.
Yeah. Again, it's interesting time. Interesting time to be to be a fan of the
me, Patrick. I do not like violence.
Yeah. So I forgot to mention that. So you are wearing the original Godfather shirt.
Yes, I decided to lean into. I got my rose here, so I can, whatever.
Yeah. Well, I think that's it. Anyway, have a good time in Australia, Brian. That's it's on my bucket list too. So
next week, actually,
TBD.
I think that this upcoming weekend, I didn't, not even any minor competitions. I didn't see anything on the schedule. Yeah, nothing at all. And then next week there's those 4, and then we go from there. But next week we'll preview, the Rebel Renegade Games, Far East Throwdown, Syndicate Crowns. I've already sent my picks to Patrick for all of those, so he'll have his work cut out for him to prep all those things. And then I'll probably just get up early one day in Australia. We'll try to do it probably around this similar time. Maybe it'll be 5 a.m. or something for me, but that's okay.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
But we'll do a show to preview the rest of those competitions. We'll bring you some action from the 2 of them and keep plowing along. Yeah.
And then the other 2, I believe Rebel Games will have a live stream. And then, of course, Syndicate Crown is being covered by Sevan and that whole crew there. It looks like they're doing some amazing stuff. Hopefully it pans out, that people show up. What we're seeing right now, and I think what we're going to witness at our semifinals we're going to, it's going to be a huge participation from the community. I only hope we were able to see that for the first time at Syndicate last year. Hopefully but what we have seen the last 2, I mean, Mayhem was Mayhem. It had a lot of people there, but obviously it was limited seating. I think they only had like maybe enough room for maybe a couple hundred, maybe, I don't know exactly how many people, but it was very limited. And then we saw at the TFX Invitational wasn't the greatest crowd, but that's no reflection of what the TFX crew is doing. So, but we're going to see something different. And again, it looked like the attempts at front throwdown wasn't the greatest either, not what we're used to seeing. And obviously, Wildland wasn't what we're used to seeing from Spain. But I think where we're going, Australia, I think it's going to be crazy. And I know Korea is going to be crazy. You know, South Africa, I think they have they have a community there that's very supportive as well. So Syndicate is basically like, let's see it. I mean, I think Sevon and their team that's doing that, I think they're doing all the right things to make it more engaging. It's just a matter of the people actually show up. So, you know, actions speak. So we'll see.
Yeah, more on Syndicate next week.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Thanks for showing up. We appreciate you. A lot of good stuff. Again, if you're not following the In the Box Instagram page, go ahead.
In the box office?
In the box. I'm sorry. In the box office. Sorry, I'm distracted on a couple things here. In the box office. Make sure you give the girls a follow. Big news coming up from them. Hopefully, they'll be rolling out the first episode soon. We're working on that right now, and I'm looking forward to see what those ladies do. And plus, it gives us the time to not kind of chill and see and just see what they can do. So yeah,
maybe I'll come in the comments section.
I mean, I'm gonna watch. I mean, obviously, Kate's one of my good friends. Mesa's one of your good friends. It's, these are two people that, it'll be interesting to hear what they talk about. So, yeah. Again, shout out to Carl. I mean, you got to spend a lot of time with Carl while you're in Vegas. I think we also need So HER CBD. Use friend 20 at checkout. Get 20% off all your CBD needs. And I do believe, I do believe that you can use this if you're part of WFP season. It is not a banned substance through according to the WFP. So, all right, gentlemen and women, thank you so much. Brian, you have a safe day of travel. I know it's a long day of traveling for you, so good luck. Have fun.
Leave on Friday from Chicago, arrive in Australia Sunday morning.
Gonna have a blast. So, but anyway,
even the Aussies that I've talked to, they're like, yeah, it's a big travel day. And I mean, I've taken even the flight from LA over to Sydney. It's longer by like an hour than the longest ones I've done before. So new record coming in.
New record. Yep, definitely. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Appreciate all your support as always. Enjoy. It is Thursday. We're one day closer to the weekend. Everyone smile, give someone a hug, high five, and as always, be friendly, our friends.